corporate media has no idea who Tulsi Gabbard is. So, Daniel, take it away.
So yeah, real quick before we even start the video. So yeah, I'm going to be reading the article like normal, and we're going to kind of do a nice compare and contrast.
Oh, almost forgot to say, Tulsi time.
Oh yeah, there will be Tulsi time, but okay, fine. I'll do a little Tulsi time before we start. You making me press all these extra buttons.
I'm sorry.
So many buttons.
This one, I love this one.
There we go. Tulsi time.
There we
so,
go.
let's show them the video. No sound will be playing. We do apologize for that
I will be
inconvenience.
speaking though, so my sound will be playing. Haha. Go. Okay, so this is from the New York Times, of course, the paper of note, as we discussed. Wonderful, 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 except when they aren't, which is a lot. And this is their article that if you want to know who Tulsi Gabbard is and you go to the New York Times, this is what they're going to tell you. Who is Tulsi Gabbard? Miss Gabbard was deployed to Iraq and currently serves in the Hawaii, as a major in the Hawaii National Guard. She has she has leaned on her background as a service member in making foreign policy her chief concern. Specifically, she is urging the United States to get out of foreign wars and discuss and focus on peace building, which is an interesting way of phrasing what she's doing. She also has warned that nuclear arms race could be on the horizon. No, she's arguing that it is currently happening. Now, some questions. If you want to know about Tulsi Gabbard and you have no idea who she is, what does the New York Times say about her? Where does she stand on foreign policy? Miss Gabbard doesn't fit neatly into any one established ideology or school of thought. She does not. She generally does not endorse meddling with dictators. She thinks the threat from Russia is severely exaggerated. She wants to stop beating the drums of war with Iran, and she would prefer to make nice with North Korea. It's a very interesting way of putting, especially making nice with North Korea. Anyway, I will continue. This is the paper of record, after all. Wasn't she the one that met with Bashar Assad? This is literally the second thing that they bring up. This is literally like, hey, if you want to know about her, here's... Anyway, Miss Gabbard visited Syria's President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus in January 2017. Now, that's not actually factually correct. She went on a fact-finding mission and was approached by his government, and they said, we're going to talk with you, come with us, which is a very, very, very different thing. Something other American officials have not done since reports emerged of Mr. Assad's use of chemical weapons against civilians. Now, we've also covered this, and Paul's done a lot of work, that increasingly is becoming questioned as to whether or not it happened or who carried it out. So another issue with the paper of record. She defended the move as a way to help broker peace. Critics have called her actions un-American after Miss Gabbard sharply criticized Senator Kamala Harris for her prosecutorial record during one of the Democratic debates. Miss Harris called Gabbard. I love how they're like, oh, this one thing that she did well, we're going to also get into. Miss Gabbard was called a apologist for an individual, Assad, who has murdered the people of his country like cockroaches, similar to what Kamala did to the students and the parents of kids in California.
Yeah.
And then they give this very interesting third one. And again, once I'm done with this is it. There's no more that gets written about her. So the final question is, the point they want to make about Tulsi Gabbard is, speaking of debates, why wasn't she in the September debate? Short answer, she didn't qualify. Slightly longer answer, she needed 2% in 4 polls that the Democratic National Committee counted towards debate qualification. After that, it's like, hey, if you want to look up other stuff, click on these other links. But that is it. That's all the New York. If you're going to look up the New York Times and it's going to say here's about Tulsi Gabbard, that's it. What do you think, guys?
Okay, so there's a couple of things that I would like to inform the New York Times since they choose to ignore what she's accomplished so far. Well, Representative Tulsi Gabbard successfully called out Hillary Clinton and her hypocrisy, and is actually one of the few Democrats to actually step up and to really challenge basically a figurehead of neoliberalism and centralism here in the United States, especially within the Democratic Party. Tulsi Gabbard is one of the few presidential candidates to actually be in an active lawsuit against Google due to the fact that Google, not once, but twice helped hide information about who Tulsi Gabbard is and her campaign. I mean, it's basically they just made sure that if people were curious about Tulsi Gabbard, no information was being seen about Tulsi Gabbard. The New York Times ignored the fact that Tulsi Gabbard successfully knocked out Kamala Harris, who has an extremely questionable record, most notably incarcerating a large portion of the African American population within the state of California, and Kamala Harris's close ties with the prison industrial complex. The New York Times is ignoring the fact that Tulsi Gabbard managed to basically shatter Pete Buttigieg's image. Everyone's ignoring the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is one of the few people to acknowledge the election fraud during the 2016 primary when she stepped down as vice chair to the DNC because what she saw was wrong and corrupt. Tulsi Gabbard is somebody that a lot of Americans, not just liberals and progressives, but conservatives, libertarians, and independents really are drawn towards. And remember, there's a media blackout on Tulsi Gabbard. And anytime they could smear her with being a Russian asset or an Assad apologist, it's a way to destroy somebody's character. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard served 16 years honorably in the Hawaiian National Guard. Yet, all what the media can do is smear, smear, smear. And remember, the DNC chooses which polls they want so that a candidate can qualify in the debate. She could have made it to the September debate. And yeah, and guess what? She's very close to make it for the 6th Democratic debate as well. But she made her decision to not participate in because, let's face it, to quote Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Tulsi Gabbard, both being on Joe Rogan's show, they both said the exact same thing. And I think we all know the truth, the hard truth, and that is the debates are demeaning. So it's very interesting that the New York Times was updated that, but left out so much important information. But that's why we're here. That's why independent media exists, because now more than ever, we have to call out the establishment media for their own hypocrisy.
So one more thing that Prime mentioned in chat, which I thought was a fantastic point, is that the longer answer why she was on the debate, or part of the reason, is she got deployed. I completely forgot that she was deployed to Indonesia. And that hurt her poll numbers because people are like, where's this Tulsi Gabbard person? New York Times didn't mention that. Paul?
Yeah, I think one of the things I want to push back on, and I think the Matt Orfalea video that you just saw there makes a really good point of...
Mind you, that's a really good video, too.
It's a fantastic video. He just does great videos. He's top notch. Yeah. You do really need to hear it with the audio because it makes the rhetorical points much better. One of the things that strikes me is very interesting is this, oh, well, she's a Russian apologist. She sounds very Kremlin-y. It sounds like these talking points. So she's going to do things that help Russia. This is the way that logic goes. It's predicated on a zero-sum thinking about foreign policy. And that is, if someone advocates for anything that would in any way be advantageous to Russia, and we don't like them, we can claim that they're a Russian apologist or that they are acting on behalf of the Kremlin, or at the very least are an unwitting, useful idiot. And here's the problem with that zero-sum type thinking. Tulsi Gabbard is advocating for less war in the world, advocating for peace, for less regime change, right? To stop the United States unipolar, world hegemonic empire march. How is world peace something that is somehow bad for America? Why is it that anything that is good for Russia, I mean, world peace would be good for everyone, right? But do we have to not like world peace because it would be good for Russia? Is that a Kremlin talking point now? Is world peace a Kremlin talking point?
You caught Putin's devastating plan. World peace for everyone. Puppies for some, American flags for others. Yeah, guys, that was Putin's plan the whole time. Have world peace so he can undermine world peace. Mental gymnastics all around. I don't know. So whenever you have a candidate that's actually talking about real progressive change, the media is going to do their job to smear that candidate and tear them down. But as it stands right now, look, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, she's not going anywhere. I mean, look, Kamala Harris had a huge amount of resources, and she's now out of the race and shut down all her, campaign offices. But yet Tulsi Gabbard is continuing to gain momentum. She's doing good in a lot of the polls, but yet these polls are not being counted, nor are they being acknowledged as, that people like Representative Tulsi Gabbard. They like what she is saying, and they want to hear her on the debate stage. So well done, DNC. Well done, corporate media, for trying to smear a candidate, but it's not working, and Tulsi Gabbard isn't going to apologize. And one final note, awesome job, Matt Orfalea, for that video on Tulsi Gabbard, because you know what? Once again, it shows that the media is once again failing at its job. Tulsi Gabbard is not a Russian asset. She's not an Assad apologist. She is a sitting congresswoman who served 16 years honorably in the Hawaiian National Guard. She's not a traitor. She's doing her job as a civil servant and trying to win the nomination for president for the Democratic Party so that she can go on to the general election. I think with the amount of trials and tribulations that she has gone through, I'm impressed with her courage and her willingness not to snap at every single reporter asking her, are you going to run for a third party? Are you going to run for a third party? I mean, she can answer that question 1 million times, 2 million times, 10 million times, infinity, and they're still going to ask her that same damn fucking question. It's getting ridiculous.
You know what's stupid is that the assumption is that she will. The assumption is that she's lying about that, and that as soon as she does not win the Democratic nomination, she's going to begin campaigning against Democrats specifically and try to throw the election toward Trump. And it's like, but based on what? Why have you come to that conclusion? You've asked this question very specifically, incessantly, and gotten extremely clear answers about it. How come you don't give her the credit for the answer that she's given you? How come you deny her own words? Why?
Well, Paul, I mean, obviously the New York Times wrote it, and they were quoting the Washington Post, which was quoting the New York Times, which was quoting the Washington Post, which was quoting the New York Times.
Oh, they quoted themselves enough times, which made it true. Yes. I forgot how that works.
Even though there's two interesting caveats. Number one, Tulsi Gabbard signed a document with the DNC, a pledge, indicating that she is not going to run third party. You know, I remember when corporate media was saying that Bernie Sanders was going to run third party. That never happened in 2016. Tulsi Gabbard's not running for third party in his 2020 election cycle at all. And not to mention, number two, we have covered third party candidates here at Hardlands Media. It's very difficult to run a third party campaign, especially if you're with the Greens or Libertarians or whatever kind of party. It's a huge monumental task. And this short amount of time frame, you would require a numerous amount of resources just to effectively even get on any kind of ballot or get onto the debate stage as well. It's just ridiculous. And
well,
just
you're
to
not
make it
getting
clear,
onto the debate stage.
Yeah.
No matter what, if you're not in one of the two major parties.
And if you try and attend, you'll be handcuffed to a chair.
Exactly.
Yeah, just ask Dr. Jill Stein. So, final note, Tulsi Gabbard, if you really want to learn more about her, check out her previous interviews, especially like on Joe Rogan or Jimmy Dore. Check out Matt Orfalea's video. Again, apologies for the fact that we couldn't play the audio, but I mean, it's really good. And then
subscribe to his channel.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, check him out. Yeah, he's done some awesome. Great work. So Matt, awesome job for actually bringing truth to power, because corporate media is not doing its job. But that's why we're here. Independent media leading the way. Daniel, what's the final word? Oh, Duck Moore. No one has done more for Russia than the Clintons. $3 billion tax dollars in 1993 for Yeltsin meddling. Reset button 2009. Uranium 1 2010.
Yeah, people forget that when Hillary first ran against Sanders in 2016, the biggest weakness that they perceived was her connections with Russia. So what did she do?
Her campaigns. Yeah.
And so what did they do? They gaslit everyone else, and we are still living with that gas explosion, let's call it, to this day, where right now the House is trying to impeach Trump for Ukraine because they couldn't get Russia. It's all of this could have been avoided, but it wasn't.
Yep.